Hello and welcome to Akron Buzz. I'm Tim Doherty. The Akron community was rocked recently with a deadly plane crash in an Ellet neighborhood. It was the deadliest this area had seen in a long time, and all told, 2 crew members and 7 passengers perished in that. And if there was to be a bright spot in this tragedy, it was that there were no injuries or fatalities on the ground, despite the fact that the plane had a direct hit on an apartment building in that same neighborhood. Our community came together, as you saw, to help those displaced residents and everyone affected by that, as did Victims Assistance. And I'm joined today with some folks who represent Victims Assistance. We have Socorro and Jillian with us here today. Thank you for stopping by to talk a little bit about Victims Assistance. Jillian, I understand you got the call that day, the first call. What's that call like that you got from, I presume, law enforcement?
Yeah, it was from the Detective Bureau, and which is in the police department. And they just called down and said, there was a plane crash in Ellet, and we need some victim advocates out there. So then I just asked them how many, about how many they would need, and they said, probably bring a bunch.
Yeah.
And so then we were sent out to the location.
Yeah. Now, that's not too far from your headquarters, correct?
Where?
Where the plane crash was and where you guys are headquartered?
Our office is in the Akron Police Department. It's kind of a satellite office. Our main office is on Furnace Street.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So, I mean, it was probably about a 15-minute drive.
15-minute drive.
Okay. Well, so when people get there, obviously the carnage, the flames, everything, we couldn't get too close to the scene at all.
Right.
But what does the victim assistant, what do you guys, when you spring into action, what is exactly that is you're doing?
Basically, it's our initial response to the scene. So when we first arrived, police officers were directing us to Davenport, and when we got there, there were already displaced people in the parking lot. So our initial response is, to engage with them, talk to them, and when we first got there, we weren't sure if there was anywhere where we can send the people. So we're not out in the cold because it was rainy, super cold. Leanne, she actually showed up, and we got a room over across the street at Summit Academy, which is the administrative building, and they were awesome. They had snacks for us, water, TV, so it was great that they were right there located across the street.
And were we talking just about some of the people who from the building had been displaced, or just residents around the area that were traumatically affected by that?
Yeah, both. There were some people that couldn't even get to their houses because everything was roped off.
Right.
And then, there were the actual residents of the middle building that was hit, and then the 2 buildings on either side that were evacuated.
Now, Victim Assistance is a care organization and a helping organization, as is the Red Cross, but the 2 are sort of different entities. You're not tied in together, correct?
Right.
Okay. What does Victim Assistance do that's just a little different? I mean, in something other than a situation like the tragedy that we saw in Akron, just any particular, if you were to pick a case of maybe a house fire, or is there any organizations or situations that you deal with? What exactly do you do?
We work with all victims of different crimes.
Okay.
So we work closely with the Akron Police Department, not just Akron, other jurisdictions as well. They usually refer the victims to us. So domestic violence, sexual assault, we help with protection orders, court proceedings. We do crisis response as well, crisis intervention. Fires are usually Red Cross because they help with that, natural disasters.
So you must be trained, obviously you have to be trained to meet just about any sort of situation that you're called into. And of course we know that in this area Victim Assistance has been around for a long time and is a wonderful organization. So how did you get involved?
Well, I first was a volunteer, but I went to the University of Akron. I got an associate's in criminal justice, and I also have a bachelor's in emergency management and homeland security. So that's how I started. I started as a volunteer, and then I got hired in. Started as a night shift, now I'm at days. So that's pretty much how I got into Victim Assistance.
Jillian, same story for you?
I have a Bachelor's of Justice Studies from Kent State University. I worked at a battered women's shelter out in Portage County for about 5 years before I started working with Victim Assistance. So most of my experience was with domestic violence.
Okay, that must be, is it a trying thing to be on right in the thick of things, so to speak, in any situation? I mean, personally, does that affect?
How I try to think of it, I try to detach myself from the situation, because since we respond to so many different things, you can get burnt out. So you just have to learn that you're there for the victim. You want to provide your best services and resources to that victim. And in that circumstance, it's not about you, it's about them. So yeah, when you do walk away, you kind of got to have some things that you that you enjoy,
Yeah.
because some of this stuff it's different
Yeah,
than
certainly,
most jobs.
Certainly. You would probably mimic the same response, Jillian?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we kind of use each other,
Yeah.
sounding boards and debriefing, and we always check up on each other after if there's been a particularly hard case or situation,
Yeah.
and so that's how we all kind of
Yeah.
make
help
it through.
Help yourselves decompress just
Absolutely,
a little bit and
yes.
get through the day. And I'm certain first responders in any situation must feel that need to do that, but it's wonderful that you, especially you starting out as a volunteer. How can somebody volunteer if they happen to be watching and want to get involved in victim assistance?
Well, we do have a website. They can go to victimassistanceprogram.com. And there's also the number where they can call, and they would want to talk to Dana. She's the one that is over the volunteers.
Okay, all right.
So they would have to fill out an application.
Training involved, is it extensive at all, or?
There's a week-long, it's like a training academy, 40 hours, and it kind of touches on all the, crisis intervention, the court advocacy, trauma therapy, just all the different services we offer.
Without naming or naming names or getting into too many specific details, was any a case that you remember specifically that you walked away from thinking what a terrible situation, but that you sort of made a difference, or are they all like that?
More so, I would say with children, because kids they don't pick to be there. So some of
Right.
the things that's more affecting because that child, they're still growing, they're still developing. So when something happens to them as children, that something can live with them forever and affect how they develop and how they grow up.
Yeah. What do you think, Jillian? About the same?
Yeah, I mean, with the court advocacy, that the process of obtaining like a protection order, for example, I mean, it's pretty complicated. And so just someone walking in, asking for help, they're totally confused. And so it's nice to kind of be able to sit down and walk them through step by step. And then when you're all done, they just, a lot of times they're just, thank you so much for being there with me and helping me through this and explaining all of this to me. And,
All right. What sort of person do you think would make a good volunteer?
Someone that is compassionate, has empathy,
patience.
patience. Someone that they can work with people and understand it's not about them, it's about the victim, and just being able to provide as much information and resources to that victim. You have to be understanding of that situation, and they're in a different place than you. So that's key for patients.
Okay. And going back to the plane crash, is there still ongoing help being provided to the people displaced and affected by the crash?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we we reached out to a few of them just to kind of see how they're doing, make sure I kind of like to think of us as like a referral hub. So I mean, if there's a direct service that we can't provide, we can refer them to someone that can, or get them in touch with a program that can. So.
Okay. Well, once again, since we're talking about volunteers, let's name the website again and any names and telephone numbers people might need. And we can put these up on our screen, certainly.
It's victimassistanceprogram.org.
Yeah.
And then the hotline number is 330-376-0040.
Okay. As we wrap up here today, we want to thank you for your time. But in relation to the plane crash, is there any one particular example that stands out as to how victim assistance came in and helped out in this particular tragic situation?
One incident when we were at the Summit Academy, there was one individual, she was pretty, just shooken up, shocked by the incident, and we basically took the time to sit there and talk to her. Basically, usually she's asleep at that time, so it was just she was in disbelief. And we're talking to her, and we're, just letting her understand the situation. Plane crashes it doesn't happen every day,
Right.
especially in Akron. You don't get those typical things there. So we kind of just provided that crisis intervention to help her talk through that, and then we let her know that we were going to follow up with her, just because she was in disbelief.
Okay.
And she had her dog with her, so it was just completely shooken up by the incident.
Yeah. You were on the scene for that?
Yes,
Yeah.
me and Jillian were at the initial response. And then we had another incident where we helped provided bus passes to an individual so that they could, be able to get to where they needed to go.
Okay, great. Well, that's a wonderful idea, and I think people should take the time to give you guys a call, especially if this has touched them in any way, to want to help out in any situation, whether it's something this tragic and large scale and national news, or just something on the day-to-day for people who are affected by crimes here in Akron. So, Socorro, thank you for your time. Thank you for what you do for victim assistance, and our neighbors, our citizens here in Akron. Jillian, thank you as well. And we will see you again next time on Akron Buzz.